To Venezuela now, where more countries are recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaidó as the country's interim president. At least 38 nations now back Guaidó.
Only a handful of countries are supporting President Nicolas Maduro, including China and Russia. Elizabeth Palmer's in Caracas, where there's growing calls for humanitarian aid as food and medicine run short.
Misery and hardship affect almost everybody in this country from end to end. But we decided to go and have a look up close at one little community on the outskirts of Caracas called La Vega. Mass in La Vega not only fills the church, it draws an overflow crowd. Here, Father Alfredo Infante's spiritual message carries a strong political subtext. Es un mensaje anti-Maduro? It's not directly anti-Maduro, he tells me. People have to decide for themselves, but the church has called his presidency unconstitutional. His parishioners might call it something else, a disaster. Father Infante takes me deeper into the slum where there's been no running water for 4 months. Trucks bring enough to drink, but as Juana explains, nothing more. Oh. And she shows me weeks of piled up dirty laundry she can do nothing about. Outside, the neighborhood kids are getting fed lunch and a dose of vitamins thanks to the church and local volunteers. If not for this, some of these children wouldn't eat at all. With average inflation last year a surreal 80,000%, almost no one in La Vega or anywhere else in Venezuela can survive on what they make from work. The economy here is so broken that, say, the average teacher's salary, $6 a month, would only buy this many eggs. In fact, almost half of Venezuelans would be seriously hungry without some kind of charity or food handout. Meat is a treat. Ask Enrique, the butcher, who sells the cheapest cuts to people lucky enough to be able to buy maybe once a week. Politically, he's an exception here, still loyal to the government. So who do you think is the legitimate president now? I believe, he says, and 90% of Venezuelans believe too, that it's our commander Maduro. Actually, that's not true. He is in a shrinking minority. Recent polls show that more than 80% of Venezuelans want Maduro to quit. They agree with the church. The president has lost his legitimacy. He has to go. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Caracas.
Well, for more on this, we want to bring in CBS News State Department reporter Christina Ruffini. She's joining us now from Washington. So, Christina, you know, we saw just how dire the situation is in Venezuela. We know that the U.S. pledged $20 million in humanitarian aid, but does that still come with a catch?
Not as far as we know, but the issue is actually getting the aid into Venezuela. So there's a couple issues. First, they have to get it to Colombia where they're going to stage it. That's a more straightforward process, right? That's easier. The difficult part comes after the staging, making that cross across the border. Now, they're staging in a town called Cucata. It's where Manny Bojorquez was reporting from there a couple weeks ago, actually. It's where they have a lot of Venezuelan refugees. And they've said that aid is going to go across the border. It's not going to be delivered to refugees in Colombia. But the bigger issue is how are they going to get it into the country? Now, they have to transport it. We've been told it will not be transported with Colombian military vehicles, and it will not be transported with U.S. military vehicles. And that's because of the optics of that. They really want to differentiate between humanitarian and military action. They don't want the optics of these big military trucks rolling across the border when Maduro has already accused the U.S. of trying to stage a coup. So what they're most likely going to do is try to find a neutral NGO, maybe a Catholic charity organization with the resources and capacity to transport that kind of quantity into the country. Because, again, you don't want to do anything that's going to push Maduro into a military action or make tensions on the ground worse than they already are.
So what kind of aid is going down first, Christina?
Food and medicine. The USAID administrator tweeted out some pictures yesterday of boxes that they said were in a staging warehouse. We're being told those are nutritional biscuits for children. As you saw in Liz Palmer's piece, it's been nearly impossible for even those Venezuelans who have jobs to feed themselves and their families. So food is a big priority. The other issue is medicine, cancer medicines, HIV medication, drugs that are not manufactured in Cuba or Venezuela have been almost impossible to come by, especially for people suffering for chronic long-term illnesses. So the goal is to get those into the country and get them to the people who need them as quickly as possible, but we're still not sure when exactly that will happen. We're hearing things might start moving or go in the direction of moving towards the end of the week, but nobody has been able to confirm that on either the U.S., Venezuelan, or Colombian sides.
So the reason that I asked you about a cash is I thought that the $20 million was connected with Maduro stepping down, but I guess not. It's just purely humanitarian aid to help these people.
My understanding is that has been pledged regardless. But what they want to make sure is that the aid goes to the right people and doesn't get confiscated by the Maduro regime or doesn't somehow end up a pawn being used by Maduro. You know, he could confiscate it and then hand it out and say, you know, this is from the real people of Venezuela. So it's tricky, and they want to make sure that they're doing it right. But as far as I know, that $20 million is without strings so long as it is in the hands of the Guaidó government and doesn't go to anyone associated with the Maduro regime.
That totally makes sense. I think, God, these people are in such need. Just get them what they need,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah, it's an uphill battle.
It really has been. Christina, thank you so much. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you guys so much.